Hola, hello, oi, howdy. To all you listeners and watchers, welcome back to Portuguese Made Easy and the World in Focus podcast. I'm Professor Adrian Disley, your cultural ambassador and language guide on this journey of development. Here, ready to help you just not only to speak Portuguese and English correctly, but to truly master communication wherever you go. Today, we're diving into a super important topic: mastering communication for non-English speakers. So whether you're a beginner or just want to improve your confidence, your clarity in English, this episode is packed with practical tips, examples, and a little cultural flavor from a Barbadian standpoint. We'll look at European Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, as well as English. And yes, a dash of good old Bajan too to help you get started. So stay with us. I'll be back with you shortly. So let's begin by looking at why communication matters across the world. First thing first, communication is so important because I want you to imagine that you're traveling, working, or making new friends in an international space. Words alone, aren't enough, for you to, express yourself. You also need to be clear, you need clarity, you need to be able to listen well, and also to understand the cultural unspoken rules. Eu sempre digo, a língua é a porta. Language is the door. But guys, it also matters how we open the door, okay? In Brazil or Portugal, Barbados, or anywhere in the English-speaking world, good communication builds bridges. Like I always say in Bajan, you see you jumping your foot in two boats, meaning you gotta focus your message so everyone understands you, even if you are speaking Bajan dialect. When we come out, we look at some common communication barriers. So stay tuned. And welcome back to Portuguese Made Easy. Now, let's talk about some of, the things that trip many learners up as they are learning English or a foreign language. First is accent and pronunciation. Everyone, everywhere has an accent. And that's beautiful because we're all, a part of this global soup of communication. But some sounds can actually be tricky, especially when we're looking at Portuguese and both European Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese. Why? Because the TH sound in words like think and this doesn't exist in Portuguese, and of course it doesn't exist in Bajan dialect either. In European Portuguese, we say obrigado, with the crisp ending. But in Brazil, it's a softer ending because we say obrigado. Okay? In Bajan, we might hear, somebody say, thank you, right? Which is thank you, and it's simple and it's clear. The second barrier to communication is a limited vocabulary. Sometimes you know the word, but you're not, sure of its use. For example, English speakers often say, I'm very agree, instead of I completely agree. In Portuguese, we say eu concordo totalmente. And one of the next barrier that we can look at is cultural differences. What's polite in one country might sound strange or even rude in another country. For example, in Brazil, it's normal to greet with a kiss on the cheek. Even males greet with a kiss on the cheek. All right. In Barbados, we give a warm handshake. A hug if it's more a common person who we know quite well. In England, though, or even in the US, a firm handshake and eye contact is expected. Understanding these barriers helps you to prepare and also to adapt your communication style, which is quite important, because I think it's important for us not only to adapt our communication style, but also to become communicative chameleons wherever we go. So I want us to now practice some sounds together. I want you to say these words slowly, then faster, and repeat after me, okay? Words that sound similar, but mean different things is what we're gonna look at. So the first word is ship versus sheep. Ship versus sheep. Bit versus beat, okay? Walk versus work. Now try saying it like this: ship, cheap, bit, beat, walk, work. In Portuguese, especially European Portuguese, there's something called nasal sounds, and it can be tricky. Like when we talk about bread, we say pão or pio, okay? Where we hear that nasal sound, it comes through the nose. Brazilian Portuguese, a nasal sound is actually softer and more melodic. In Bajan, pronunciation is straightforward and rhythmic. For example, we usually don't say good morning when we use in Bajan dialect, we say morning, okay? It's sweet and, somber. The other thing is that, vocabulary is very important, and because simple words often work best. So you don't need to say utilize when you use, when use, it does the job just fine, okay? So you must learn the connectors like and, but, because, so, because they help to link the ideas that you're trying to share and keep the gaze or the communication pattern with the individuals that you're communicating with. So if you don't know a word, describe it. I learned, body expressions a lot, especially when it came to going to restaurants and places that I didn't know how to speak Portuguese, burger, those kind of things. Instead of saying pen, I learned to say the thing you write with, and also remember, to just be yourself. There's some polite expressions as well that you can expand your vocabulary with things like, could you please, poderia, por favor, in Portuguese. You can also remember, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Desculpe, no entende. All right, can you repeat that, please? Pode repetir, por favor. In Bajan, we will say, sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you please repeat? Or, that again. Okay? Simple, but respectful. Now, nonverbal communication, and listening is very important, right? Did you know, guys, that over half of communication is nonverbal? Eye contact, gestures, postures, they all matter when it comes to communication. In Brazil, people use their hands a lot while talking. It shows passion, engagement. In Portugal, gestures are actually more restrained, but meaningful. I guess as you go more towards Europe, it diminishes. In Bajan culture, a smile, a nod, can go a very long way. Active listening, guys, means showing you're paying attention. You nod, you say, I see, I follow you. There's a lot of things that we say in Bajan dialect to let the person know, I hear what you're saying, I got you, okay? And these are all simple verbal cues. And if you don't understand, guys, ask. Could you explain that again? Pode explicar isso de novo? All right, what did you mean by? O que quer dizer com? All these are very important, guys. Every culture has its own rules for communication. In Portugal, using você, which is a youth in a formal way, right? Can sound quite distant. So we use tu, tu with friends. But in Brazil, você is friendly and common. In Bajan dialect, we folks keep it warm and informal, all right? But we still say you too, right? With respect, showing through the tone and the word choice that we use as well. Look, guys, avoid idioms or slangs, in business or formal settings, unless you're sure of the meaning. Okay, for example, don't say kick the bucket if you're not sure what it means, okay, or sure that it means to die in that language, okay. So when we come back, we'll practice some quick role plays, guys, so that you can not only repeat after me, hear the sound, hear the pronunciation, and remember, guys, this is for non-English speakers who want to beef up your communication. Se você quer melhorar sua comunicação, esse episódio é para você, okay? Always remember, guys, when it comes to communication, we must learn, to ask for direction. If you're not clear about something, ask for them to repeat it, okay? See you soon. Cheers.